Agriculture on the move.
Agriculture mouvement.
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 Good day, viewers, and welcome to the program, Agriculture on the Move. I am Phillip Sydney. The school feeding program has been around for many, many years. I can recall attending the Anglican primary school and also the infant school where we were given milk, skimmed milk. It was called CLIM, the KLM, I don't know the acronym for what, but all I know and can remember, and I'm sure you can too, that those persons with weak stomachs had to pay for it, you know where.
True.
But this time around, the school feeding program is taking another step, a serious step in the right direction. And it took the collaborative efforts of the Ministries of Agriculture, Education and Health, assisted by FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, to ensure that that program is organized properly. Why the Ministry of Agriculture? Because we have to produce the food. We have to work along with the farmers in a planned program to ensure that the right commodities are produced for that program, because it has to be local production, local commodities for that program to drive that program. Why the Ministry of Health? Because we have to look at nutrition, the nutritive values of those foods to ensure proper recipes for the school feeding program for the students. The Ministry of Education, they are going to be collaborating that effort on the ground at the schools to ensure that it works properly. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my two guests who are going to elaborate a bit more on the school feeding program, and I will allow them to introduce themselves. To my right.
Hi, I'm Sunita Daniel, the Chief Agricultural Planning Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm also the FAO National Correspondent for St. Lucia.
And
I am Cyrillia, the Coordinator for School Feeding Program with the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Labour.
thank you for being on the program, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Louise, could you give us an overview of the school feeding program, or what it used to be, and of course, where it's at now?
As you rightfully said at the beginning, there was something like a program at the schools very, very early, I guess in the 70s, and it was a milk program where each child was given a glass of warm milk at break time. I participated in that program also. However, it did me well. It didn't send me anywhere. It did me well. Right now, the school feeding program has changed, and we provide lunch for the children instead of a glass of milk at break time. Okay. So at lunchtime, each child is given a warm or hot meal, and we see to it that this meal is a well-balanced meal that the child can have at lunch during the school days.
Okay, and it's happening at all schools, at all levels, primary, secondary?
No, the school feeding program exists only at the infant and primary school.
Okay.
The school feeding program that is established by Ministry of Education, only at the infant and primary schools, yes.
Okay. So, Sunita, from there now, take us to the next step. Where we are at now, since the Ministry of Agriculture has been brought on board in that program.
Okay, if we just go back a bit, we realized that there were a few limitations to the existing school program. We realized that a huge percentage of what is on the plate is imported foods. And the Ministry of Agriculture was very concerned about what the children eat. And we wouldn't want them to be exposed to too much imported foods at such an early age. And so we were given a directive that we should see how we could collaborate with the Ministry of Education in ensuring that we have more local produce on the plates at the schools. We also tried to take a holistic view and see who else do we need on board here. And so we thought we needed to bring the Ministry of Health on board, who would help us with looking at the diet and looking at making sure that everything is balanced and ensuring that the children eat healthily. We also have brought on board the Ministry of Social Transformation. So you can see it is not a Ministry of Education thing alone or Ministry of Agriculture. I think this is one of the few occasions where we have so many government agencies collaborating to ensure that there is one collective effort. And so the Ministry of Social Transformation is also on board in ensuring that we target the correct persons because they have the expertise in terms of targeting.
And when you say targeting who?
The children. We know that at some school feeding, at some schools, children are a little anxious to be recognized as needing help in terms of I am poor and that's why I need food. We want to move away from that mentality. Our vision is that every child at every school in St. Lucia eventually should be able to eat at the school, a school meal, which is healthy. And so that's why Ministry of Social Transformation is on board. And we want to take the school feeding program beyond just during the school day, because after school, Ministry of Social Transformation has an after-school program where they also serve a little meal to the children. So we need to bring all those efforts together to ensure that we have a really holistic view on school feeding.
Okay. So in that new dispensation, are you looking at all the schools from the infant, the primary and secondary?
Well, we have not looked, we have no established school feeding program at the secondary schools.
Okay.
What operates at the school, at the secondary schools, are the school canteens, and these are private entities. However, the infant and the primary schools, we operate there and we function during weekdays.
Okay, so how do you all function? Give us a lowdown in terms of, where you get your stuff from. Okay. I know there is also a school garden. I mean, how does that embed itself in that program?
Okay, with the school feeding program, what we do, we purchase local food items from our suppliers. We purchase our frozen food items. We sometimes purchase from Highline Foods, Highline Chicken. We purchase fresh chicken from there. So we also purchase imported foods because we cannot get all what we need for the program just produced locally.
What is it that you'll import?
We do not import. We purchase imported food.
What is it you purchase?
We purchase other meats like lamb and turkey, etc. We also purchase dry food items locally. But these foods are some of them are also imported, like our wheat flour. Okay, we purchase from our local suppliers. We purchase pasta and peas and other products like that. So the meals that are prepared for the children at the schools, the plates are not completely made up of imported goods. We are gradually placing local products on the food, on the meals, in the meals for the children. The schools also, they have the school gardens. They're small gardens, and they use this little produce in the school feeding program. But this is also only a small activity. In collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture and other ministries, we will see that activity developing and growing into a bigger activity where we can get more supplies into the school feeding program.
But at the end of the day, are you all getting, in the community, say for example, the parents, are they assisting with the school feeding program?
Oh yes, parents assist. They do assist on that program. Some of them donate to the schools, like say pumpkins, plantain, green bananas, etc. Some of them sell to the schools. Also, you do appreciate that it's not every time you can always get and don't pay. Some of them sell. Sometimes I have farmers on the outside who call me and tell me, Miss, we have an excess of lettuce, an excess of tomatoes. How can we assist the school feeding program? And I target schools within the community that these farmers can go and they either donate or they sell in small quantities to the schools.
So the funding is coming from government?
Yes, all purchase funding is from government. If the schools purchase, they purchase on their own funds for school feeding.
Okay. So do you have, is there a program at the schools where they probably have their own thing, where they raise funds and that fund is used to going to that program, no?
Okay, for the school feeding program, some children contribute. They just contribute $1 for the meal, just $1. And the school gets some...
Hold that point. We are moving fast. You are watching Agriculture on the Move. We are due for a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Agriculture, one of the pillars of St. Lucia's economic development, creating opportunities for earning a living for the farmer and his family. From the field to the kitchen, the St. Lucians are finding creative ways of using fruits, crops, and vegetables grown locally, from local seasonings to special brews, from aquaculture to the cultivation of local herbs for export. A strong agriculture industry strengthens the economy. The country needs your support, so buy local.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. We are discussing the school feeding program. And with me is Sunita Daniel from the Ministry of Agriculture and Cyrillia from the Ministry of Education. You were talking about the continuation of the program from the local level in terms of assistance from other people within the community.
Yeah. Farmers do, as I said, they come and they offer excess of the produce to the schools. The schools do accept it, and we make that part of the meals for the children. The children contribute $1 towards the program, and the school would use part of that dollar to continue the program, to buy more fruits, more vegetables, to use for the meals when they're prepared at the schools.
So how many meals do they get?
It's just one
Just
meal.
one meal.
It's lunch.
Lunchtime.
A lunch.
Okay, all right. So Sunita, from that now, looking at what they're doing and the challenges they face, what's up?
On our end, we realized that we cannot really go sustainably by saying when farmers have an excess of produce, they'll call and say, can you buy what I have? We really need to put something in place that is holistic, something that is planned. And so on that end, we have brought in our own marketing specialists from the Ministry of Agriculture who will be working on the ground with those farmers and those farmers groups. We have engaged them to find out how they could help. And I mean, we're very overwhelmed with how much they are so enthused about wanting to come on board in the school program. We engaged up to last week the Black Bay farmers, and they are really willing to come on board and assist in that end. We don't want it to be a situation where farmers are plan B. We want it to be that our farmers are plan A and that other foods are plan B.
But the other thing too, Sunita, when it comes to that program has to be sustained. Now you know our farmers here. They're not sustainable at all. I mean, they will give you today and tomorrow they cannot, you know. So how are you able to ensure that there is, because that's an extra market for them,
That's right.
and that's an extra profit for them. So how are you able to ensure that they will sustain that and to have a continuous production?
The thing about our farmers is that if they know that they have a market, and they will produce for that market. And so I think one of the things that was missing previously is contract arrangements, and that's a big part of this program. They will be required to enter into contracts with the school or with the school feeding committee and say, I am going to be giving you this at every 2 weeks, every whatever period of time. And so if they know, and that's the general impression we get from the farmers, that if they know that this market exists, and they brought it up, that this is a market we are not using and we are not utilizing. So they have recognized on their own that this is somewhere that they could make some profits. And so I think it's not really a big issue for us at this point.
Okay. Cyrillia, let me ask you, the question of what you all use in terms of name the commodities, what is it that you all really need to ensure that that program is successful from the farmer point of view?
Well, from the farmer point of view, we want to know that if they are providing us with fruits or vegetables, whatever food item that they're providing, we want to ensure that the food item, we get it continuously. It must be sustained. Because remember, when the school term starts, like say the school term that begins in September, it would terminate in December, and the program runs right through. So we need to ensure that if the farmers are on board with us, whoever it is who's on board with us, we want to ensure that the food supplies continue to come in so that our our meals are not stopped at any point. So
right.
because we say we don't have the supplies, we want to make sure that what we are getting, what we are programmed to get, we get.
But can you say exactly what you all want in terms of, okay, cabbage, tomatoes? I mean, do you
Yes,
all have a core list?
Generally, we want all the foods. It's just like you are having lunch at home.
Okay.
It's just like you are having lunch at home. You will want a fruit drink. Or if you don't want a fruit drink, you may want a fruit to eat. You are having lunch at home. You'd want salads on your plate, and that's fresh green leafy vegetables. You would want starches on your plate. That would be yams, dashing, plantain, whatever it is. So you would want meat on your plate. That would be chicken. So we want to ensure that whatever it is that we need to prepare for the meal that we have, so that the children can be fed and fed well.
But can you spell out exactly what is required as far as the diet is concerned? I know you're not a dietitian, but what is required on a plate for a student?
Okay, on a plate for a student, we generally want to see food from all the 6 food groups.
Okay.
We want to see. There are times you may not be able to get food from every food group. However, we strive for that.
Okay.
We make sure that we have our staples, our vegetables, our protein food, and fats and oils, which is just a little bit of that we need, would come in. And the other nutritive foods should fall in there.
Okay.
We must have a balanced meal on a
Definitely.
plate.
Okay. Sunita, I know in that whole consultative process, I know the Minister with responsibility for agriculture, the Honorable Moses Jabatis, and the Minister with responsibility for education, they all traveled to Brazil. I think you also went there. What was that trip all about?
Okay, if I could just give you a background to that, I'll just put everything in context.
Yes.
Right. We attended a meeting last year in St. Vincent, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and myself, where we were made aware that there is actually a program in Latin America, and that the government of Brazil is assisting the Latin American countries in strengthening their own school feeding programs. Okay. So the FAO office in Barbados asked, why is this not extended to the Caribbean? Because we still have issues of getting children to eat properly and getting, hunger eradicated in the Caribbean. And so Dr. Dipford from FAO in Barbados engaged the government of Brazil and found out, is there any way that the Caribbean countries could come on board? They said because of very limited funds, they could probably take 2 countries. Very quickly, Jamaica came on board and Antigua. And so the Minister of Agriculture for St. Lucia lobbied heavily for us to also be included. So very late, St. Lucia was included in that project. So we're very happy to have gotten on board. And the way that they operate, they really want political buy-in from the highest level. And so they invited the ministers of agriculture, education, and health to a meeting in Brazil, which was attended by the Minister of Health and Agriculture. And they also invited technical officers. So I would have attended that meeting also to look at how Brazil carries out their own school feeding program. Okay. It is recognized that Brazil has one of the best programs in the entire world. Okay. And so the government of Brazil was quite graceful in teaching us how we should go about doing it. And so we are on board on this project, the 3 Caribbean countries. We have come quite a long way from January till now. Everything is moving quite speedily. And so the government of Brazil had a mission in St. Lucia in June, where we had a sub-regional meeting of Antigua, Jamaica, and St. Lucia to look at our school feeding programs. And up to last week, the government of Brazil sent in technical officers and FAO to train our own school feeding committee, which has been set up in St. Lucia. So we are moving quite speedily on that. I should also mention that our school feeding committee is not made up only of government agencies. Okay. We also have private sector on board. So we have representatives from Lucilec, the power company, who sits on the school feeding committee, and CFL. So we are taking a national view to school feeding and not just a government view.
What's the situation in Brazil? I mean, give us the formula in Brazil as far as their school feeding program.
Brazil has a sustainable school feeding program in terms of they don't import anything. They don't have any imported foods on their plate. Everything that the children in Brazil consume is actually from Brazilian farmers. And so that is what makes it sustainable. And also they go into contract arrangements, very strict arrangements with farmers. They also have an interesting philosophy. and the philosophy of the government of Brazil, and which is what St. Lucia is trying to take on board. The philosophy is that anytime a citizen of Brazil is within the care of any government institution, that institution is responsible for feeding that person. So if the children are in school, and the Brazilian school day begins at 7:30 a.m. and it goes until 7 p.m. at times because there is a shift system. And so these children are fed from age 0 until they go on to university. The government of Brazil feeds these children. Wow. And so I think it is a system that we cannot do fully, but we can really take some good pointers from that, because our children need to be fed also.
On that point, we are due for a break,
Okay.
and I think we're moving
Too fast.
interestingly fast.
Yes.
not because I drank the claim. Okay. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Back soon.
There are many opportunities in agriculture, and broiler production is one such enterprise. For further information, contact the Veterinary and Livestock Division at 468-5621.
Thank you for viewing the program. You are watching Agriculture on the Move. We're discussing the school feeding program. So, Sunita, now you have the Brazil formula. Okay, what's happening in St. Lucia now? You've given me all the little background. What's going on now at the schools?
Right now, we have a committee that works. It is supported by a cabinet subcommittee made up of the Ministers of Agriculture, Health, Education, and Social Transformation. So we actually report to our ministers on the progress that we are making. Okay. And so on our end, we have the committee made up of both the private sector and the public sector. And we are looking to see how we could bring in more private sector entities into the school feeding. School feeding is not a government issue, a government problem. School feeding and children going hungry is a national issue. We know that there are a lot of children who go to school, Mr. Sydney, without food on a morning. It is a reality in St. Lucia that some children, after they have had the lunch, and that would be the last meal they would have had for the day. That is a reality, that is a fact. Some children, after they've eaten at 12, that is it for them, until the next day they eat at 12. And that happens in St. Lucia. We are given examples of, in the Ministry of Social Transformation, for example, have told us about children who they give the meal to, the snack, after school. And these children would actually leave some later for the people at home, for a parent who wouldn't eat that night. So a child would eat a plate of food, separate it in half, and leave some for her mother later on. And this is a situation which exists in St. Lucia. So it's a real problem for us. And so that's why we have taken a national view to addressing it. And that's why we are asking the private sector to really come on board with us in addressing that issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what schools are involved now? Give us the formula.
Under this project, which is a 3-year project, we are looking at 13 schools. And these schools were selected based on a few criteria, including the level of need in the community. They would have had to come from an area which needed that kind of support. And also because we want to do sustainable school feeding, which means that the school should have access to or be able to build a school garden. And so that's the reasons those schools were selected. I could just go very quickly through. We have the Grosile Primary School, the Moshi Primary School, the Grand Riviere Primary School in Grosile, the Foasso Combined School in Babuno, Kamenerene Primary School because it's an inner city school, Lacroix Primary School in Marigot, Ancillary Primary School, Southre Primary School, Itangs Combined School, Morgouge Primary School in Choiseul, Perrault Combined School in Vieux-Fort Primary School, and the Richford Combined School in Dennery. Okay. So we have an island-wide spread of schools, and our technical officers have started going into those schools. So we want to alert those schools that although we have been talking to them, they all know about this, they're all on board, but the officers have been going in to get things started. We have had some private sector persons who have actually come on board very fully. We'd like to commend the First Citizens, for example, who have really come in strongly. Beachcomber has come in very strongly. So we are actually seeing, we have CFL, we have Lucilec, who have come in very strongly to support these programs. And so their assistance, together with the government assistance, will ensure that we have a reformed and a revitalized school feeding program, where children do not only have to eat that one meal. We're hoping that sooner or later we'll have to expand it into breakfast, because breakfast is the most critical meal of the day. And if the children can come and have a breakfast and have lunch, that's good enough for us for them.
So can I say that's the first phase of the program?
This
because
is the
I'm
first
thinking here, the other schools that you didn't mention will come on board maybe in the second phase,
Right. Since this is a pilot project, we needed to have a few controlled variables. And so this is really the first phase. We are going to be evaluating this project based on Ministry of what Health will do. Our health officers will go into those schools, and those children who are consuming the food, they'll be weighed. Their heights will be taken, their pressure will be taken, the diabetes levels, because we know there are a lot of children who are diabetic. We'll be monitoring them over a period of 3 years. At the end of the 3-year period, we will realize, or we'll say, okay, was this program successful? Did it meet its aims, and so on? We know already that it will, but we need scientific information to do that. And so the Ministry of Health, the nutrition officers, who are also represented on the school feeding committee, will be taking those variables, and then our statistical office in the Ministry of Agriculture will be inputting that data and then interpreting that data.
Great. So you're in sync with what you're doing. In other words, what's going to happen with the Ministry of Education at the school level in terms of monitoring those students? For example, I was told that, okay, if on an empty stomach, you're not able to be focused in the classroom. Are you all be looking at that too at the school level?
Yes, at the school level, we'll be monitoring the children. Nobody will be targeted and say that you'll be in a particular class for that kind of thing. We want all the children to understand what we are doing is a good thing, and we are not targeting anybody because they are poor. We just want to make sure that everybody understands the objective of the program is to improve our nutrition, our nutritional health in the school. And so the Ministry of Education is making it available at the school. We are working with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Ministry of Health. We are working with them. We since the schools have been identified, as Sunita said, through the committee, the schools have been waiting and they're willing to work, and so everybody is working collaboratively.
Where are those the meals are going to be prepared? Since you mentioned of the schools, the preparation of the meals.
Okay.
Are they going to be prepared at the individual schools, or is there going to be a central point?
Well, the meals are prepared at individual schools because each school has its kitchen. Okay. Now, Sunita's program also would go further later to assist us in upgrading our kitchens and bringing them to proper standards. We have our kitchens there. Each school will be preparing the meals as usual. We at the kitchens for their children, for the children at the school.
Okay. So, is there any final things?
I just wanted to mention that the government of Brazil, under this project, will also be strengthening the entire link. So the cooks will be trained at all of the schools. We don't want any weak links along this whole process. We need to ensure that it's sustainable, and that after this project has ended, that these 13 schools can really carry on their own. And so I would really like to thank the private sector who has really blown me away in terms of their response to our program. The private sector is fully on board, and we're encouraging even more persons to come on board. And I really want to say that school feeding is a national issue, and it's not an issue for government alone to handle, but it's for all of us as St. Lucians to handle.
Final words from you, quickly, 2 seconds.
I really appreciate working with Sunita, Ministry of Agriculture, and the other ministries, because as Sunita said, it is not a Ministry of Education's issue, it is a national issue. And if all of us come together with one aim, just because we want to be a healthy nation, I think that is the best way to go.
And we need to be a healthy nation. That is why we need to eat fresh, St. Lucia's best.
I'd
like to thank you, Sunita, and thank you, Ms. Lewis, for being on board and ensure that that program works. I think it is our role to ensure that it works.
Yes.
You've been watching Agriculture on the Move. I hope you enjoyed this program. And please, St. Lucia, try and eat what we grow. We know what we grow. We know what we use in the production of those commodities. So please, from a health standpoint, eat what we grow. I am Phillip Sydney saying goodbye and see you again.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.